good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whoever you are. This is Lee, and we're on the Game of Tongues, where we work on speech anxiety in all its forms. And right now we're talking to Wen, and he is in the venture capital world in Los Angeles. And I don't have my notes in front of me right now, but we've been talking for a couple of months, I guess, and his speech sounds very good to me. But
Yes.
and we worked on a lot of his business presentations too. So, but for
Yes.
some reason, he emailed me that he had a sort of a step backwards this within the last week, and prior to that, you hadn't had a bad incident in quite a while, had you?
That's right. Things felt under control for a long, 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 long time.
So what happened? Tell us what happened the other day that was so bad.
I think it was just I think it was just like few instances throughout the day. Um, um,
You think
one of
it's
which
like a
was like
what? What did you
like
say?
I think it was a few instances
I
that
blah, blah, blah,
I
blah, blah. Take the washcloth out of your mouth and say that to me again, because I'm not understanding you at all, mate.
there were a few instances.
Okay, thank you. And
Sorry
you
that
did
day,
one
and
the words get like blah, 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 blah. I could understand that.
that's right.
I know
So they
that
were.
Mandarin or something is your first language, but your English is too good to do that to it, and you
I
can't
see.
afford it really because people can't understand you. I'm a good one to work with because my hearing is not so good. If I can understand you, anybody can.
That's right.
Okay,
So,
so go ahead.
um, there were a few instances yesterday, or actually two days ago now, where I just felt particularly like on edge, right? I just felt particularly sort of uneasy about speaking, and
Who was
um,
what kind of a meeting was it?
yeah. So first, it was like an internal presentation to my
Okay,
boss, right, whom I've
okay,
gotten quite comfortable with all of our practice
okay.
in the last several months, and then the day after that um, we had a sort of like a potential business partner that we wanted to establish some sort of relationship with, and so he came to the office. And I was to, my job was to introduce him to my boss or to my two bosses. I have two people who are senior to me, and I wanted to introduce this guy to both of them, right? So I had to basically begin the meeting by saying a few things about what our by saying a few things about what what our company does and what this guy does, right? The usual the usual spiel
When
about what
why are you trying to talk so fast?
uh,
Slow it down, man. Be deliberate. Use extreme pronunciation with me. Come on. Okay?
that's right.
Use extreme
Um,
pronunciation. Take your time. You're a king, you know.
not I did read that email, which was very helpful.
I'm sorry?
I did read that email from you about acting like a king. I thought that was very helpful.
Well, the guy who wrote it back to me is a PhD in linguistics and a self-cured stutterer, around 60 years old. He's worked in speech all his life at a university, and he's retired now. And I've written something to you about word repetitions, and I sent it to him. And he wrote me back and said, you know, what you wrote to this guy sounds to me a lot like what I learned when I was dating this girl, and she was an actress and she was taking a course in acting, and she suggested I take it too, which would have been terrifying when you're stuttering. But in any event, he took it. And so one of the first things they did is they said, we want all of you to learn to speak like a king. And then he described what it was, and it was very much like the advice that I had given you in that email. And I'm still giving it to you, and you know
Yeah.
what? You're not taking it. Based on the way you're speaking to me, you're not taking that advice. Not yet, you're not. You have a habit of machine gunning people with your words. You think fast, you run your words out fast. It'll, even if you never started a day in your life, you're going to stumble around talking the way you do. We're trying to slow you down. We're trying to take you out into another gear. We're
That's
trying
right.
to give you the elevate your speech to that of someone who is a great speaker, and you can do it pretty much like that.
That's
Go
very good
ahead.
feedback.
Now, go ahead. Continue with your story.
Mm,
The meeting was you were
so
introducing two new people, no, one new person to two of your bosses.
yes, and I had to run the usual spiel, which is tell everyone about what the company does, right, what this guy does, who we are. So it's like a well rehearsed um, paragraph I've heard people say many times, right? And now I say it, and that made me feel quite bad because it was the easiest to anticipate all the words that I thought I would stumble over in a
You mean you
time
actually thought
pressured.
about your words?
I know. So that's the well, that was my point of failure. I thought it was so. It was a bit of a pressure inducing situation,
Yeah.
right? Just because it's a you know it's a guy who I was trying to introduce as my credit, right? It's like me doing my job well by establishing good new connections for the company, and then this thing that always gets said by various people in the company is a sort of well repeated thing. So it's like let's say there are 50 words in that two sentences that we always say, and I just heard it so many times, right? Like I know. So for some people, right, if you say something many times, you stop thinking about it, right? Because it becomes like muscle memory. For me, if it's a thing, or these days, if it's a thing that I say or have said or heard many times, I remember all the words so clearly, and then it makes it easier for me to
Let me
more
ask you a
tempting
couple
to
of
think about
questions.
it.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. Before this meeting,
Yeah.
did you know the meeting was going to occur shortly?
Yes.
Okay. And when this fellow came in, did you like greet him in the reception room or in your office or something?
Yes.
And did you have, before he came in, were you um, having elevated fears? You were. And did you do any contradicting of those at all? Did you say, I love to speak to yourself? Did you say,
I did.
when I speak, I'll calm will flood my body? I'm
Yeah.
kind of,
I even. I mean, I sat down there by myself, and so before he came, right, which was scheduled, I even did a call a 15-minute self hypnosis, like auto suggestion session, right, by myself in some corner in the room because I thought that's what I need to
okay,
do
that
to
should have been enough.
subside.
That should have been enough to, oh, geez, why is this guy calling now?
It's okay. You
Somebody else. Um, I don't have him down for now. If he tries to come in, his name just showed up. Maybe he dialed me by mistake. I don't know. Anyway, that should have been enough to do it. But
yeah, that's what I
did
thought.
you have
Yeah.
any? Did you have any notes with you? Did you have a notepad like you were going to take notes at the meeting? Did you have anything like that?
Mm, I did not. Maybe I should have.
Hold on, I got to tell this guy.
Okay.
Um,
I'll wait right here.
Let me look at my calendar, just see if I can,
Sure.
I don't know what his problem is, but let me just see if I got any time,
Okay.
later. I have some at 2 o'clock.
Hey, by the way, I really
Uh,
appreciate you taking the time to step in.
no, no problem. Let's stay on this. He's writing me back. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that. But so, did you have a? Could you have a? Anytime you can have a notepad to take notes at a meeting. I think you should. And some keywords you ought to write at the top, kind of like you're giving a presentation. The keywords that you want to be dominant in your mind during the conversation. And what are the key words that I said about avoiding repetitions? Because really, when your problem, we can sort of boil it down to repetitions. Um, and when we take those out, you're fine. Well, hold on just a second. Hold on. Um, so anyway, so what are some of the key words that I recommended to you in that email about repetitions? I'm asking you when.
Yeah. I mean, first thing I remember was to slow down.
Yes, that's right.
Slow down. Right.
What else?
Because
I'm gonna have to go get that email because
I'm gonna pull it up now. So that's my, I mean, that's my main takeaway. And there's have more faith in,
well, that's not the main thing
what
though.
is it?
When I really, you're a smart guy, and you need when you need to hold on to these key points and work them. Don't make me repeat them. It wastes my time. It wastes your time. It goes backwards. I don't have any time to waste, and you don't either. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Extreme pronunciation was another thing I said to you, and that should talk slowly was one. Um, Insert pauses was two. So I'm writing the word pauses, and three was extreme pronunciation. I might also have said word linkage, but I don't think I did. Um, Look, you're not the only person I've written about word reps. It's funny, things come in bunches. I had about 3 people who had the same problem within a matter of days. You
Hmm.
were the first. Um,
Yes.
Hold on. Okay, he can't do it in 2 hours, so I blew him off. Didn't mean to, but he doesn't have as much of a problem at the moment as you do. He doesn't really have a problem.
Good. Well, it's good to
So look,
not have a problem
what
anymore.
you should have done
Yeah.
is you should have taken notes. You should have congealed that email into a handful of words. And a couple of them are slow down, and or pauses is definitely one. Extreme pronunciation, I'm sure I mentioned that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that should
Yeah.
be at the top of your notepad. When you go into that meeting, it
Yes.
should be right at the top. Slow down. Pauses, extreme pronunciation, right across the top. And if you
Yes.
want to say enthusiasm, okay, whatever else speaks to you, fine. Don't want to have too much. But this is the kind of thing that you keep it right at the top. and you speak from that thing. Look, it's discipline. When you're a disciplined person, if you weren't, you wouldn't have gotten where you are so far. But you're missing. You're not really rowing the boat here. You've got to. When you get in trouble, you've got to stop. You've got to take it to account. You got to rephrase it and take it from the top. Now, if I were you, and I had, I don't know if you could do this or not, but if I were you, and I have this meeting coming up, I would have met the guy. If I could take him into my office before the meeting, I would have done that, and I would have covered the basic points that everybody always covers about the business, what we do and all that stuff, rather than waste your boss's time with it. They know that pitch. They don't need to hear you do it. And again, so you take, if you could, if you couldn't do that, I think I might have sat with him in the reception room. Said, sit down here for just a second. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming in. I just want to cover a couple of basic things before I introduce you to my bosses. That's
Yes.
kind of what we do. You cover it, what, in 2-3 minutes? You cover those 50 words, and that part of the problem is
Not even, yeah, less time than that. And
okay. And you
I'll
clean
just tell
that.
you this, yeah.
You clean that. Look, when you make it easy on yourself, what you need is a long series of victories. And what I mean, passes. It's pass and fail. When pass and fail for the moment. Once you have enough passes, there will be no more failures. And when there are no more failures, your speech is going to go way up, way up.
Right.
But right now, we're trying to avoid the failures. We can't afford the failures. So you should have cornered this guy, set him down somewhere, done that, then taken him into the bosses and said, and I would, now, did you have any problem with any of the names?
Not this time.
Good,
No.
good. Because always remember the easiest way to say names, modulation, Stevenson, Michaels, Johnson, and if it's one word names, well, you got eight crutches to work all those names with.
Yeah.
And most of them work on names. So, but you get through the introductions, and I have found with that, you know, have you ever heard a boxing match? See, it's kind of, it antedates you on the planet, but boxing used to be a big sport. And as a matter of fact, I represented the heavyweight champion of the world for a while. His name was Rocky Marciano, and he's the only heavyweight who never lost a fight. I'll show you something. He was a great mate. I did a lot of stuff for him. This is his picture, and what it says on here, he wrote, "To Lee, my mouthpiece, the brain love it. You're a champ." Anyway, he was a good guy. He was the first guy to ever retire, first boxer to ever retire a millionaire, the only one to ever retire who never lost a fight, the only one who ever lived. And what was my point? Good God, have mercy on me. I had a point for mentioning him. Jesus.
You said.
Oh, I know. And introductions. I had to introduce him any number of times, particularly to crowds. And my analogy was to the boxing arena, because in the days of boxing, the way the announcer would introduce them is, it would be something like that. He would go into the center of the ring, and one boxer would be in one corner and one boxer in the other, and he would say, and we have tonight in the corner, in the west corner, in the pink shorts, we have Rocky Marciano. You know, he was really over dramatize the name. Well, when I used to introduce Rocky, I would introduce him pretty much the way a boxing announcer did. And
Mm,
you know, the minute you get out of your own voice range into a louder range, or softer range, you're basically home free most of the time, unless you stay there a long time. You're basically home free. You don't have to yell. You can go soft on it too. But I did it with a lot of people's names: Richard, Richardson, William, Williamson. I combine it, modulation with extreme pronunciation. Overpronounce, over dramatize names. People's names at the everyone's name is the most important words in the language to them. To you it's Wen, to me it's Lee, and that's it. And so when somebody's introducing you, um, you never mind if they overplay your name. When blah blah blah, Lee loved that. You know, I mean, I'm doing it. I'm hamming it up a bit, but the point is, you can ham names and you can ham some words, and it makes it a lot easier. In any event, it's a combination of crutches. But coming back to you, I really strongly feel that if you will slow down, that if you will use pauses, that if you will think extreme pronunciation, you're done.
yeah.
If you want to also think enthusiasm, smile, great. But I really think those three things, and you're going to sail through meetings. But you can't let them go, Wen. And you need to stop talking anytime you get hung up. Shut it down.
Yeah.
1001, 1002.
Oh, I
Anyone
tried that,
can
by the
wait
way.
that long. What?
I tried the trick of stopping myself. Worked. That was remember I emailed you back. I know you get a lot of emails, but there was an email I sent you back like yesterday after my first like help email, and the next email was the day after that. I managed to have it somewhat under control because I started the next day feeling just as bad or nervous, and then I was just chatting with my boss and feeling uneasy, and then I just stopped talking. I just stopped and let him talk, and I went back into it slower, right, having caught up my breath, paced myself, and so this day, the day leading up to today, the last 24 hours have been pretty good.
I
So,
have
so I
that.
felt
I have your last email right in front of me. I pulled it up.
yes.
Um,
So
I'm a good filer. I don't always read everything, but I try. I'm a pretty fast reader. And so, in any event, the point um, is there are two things about this important here. Number one, we must avoid failures. We must avoid failures at all costs. Excuse yourself, go to the bathroom. Excuse me, I forgot what I was going to say. What were you saying? I lost my train of thought. Go ahead with it. Anything I have to do to avoid a failure, I'm going to do it. That's legal and moral. And the second thing is very equally important. You cannot grade as a failure anything that isn't a clear failure. Your opinion of how you do is critical to your improvement. Critical. And did you ever play baseball? Baseball? You didn't. Um, well,
but I can understand
it's
the
whenever
analogies.
there's
You can go ahead.
in any sport, there are situations that are virtual ties. Wouldn't you say that's true? I mean, it's so close you can't really tell who won the thing, the particular play or the point or something. Um, I can't think of another analogy right now. Well, I'll give you one. Did you ever play football? I mean, what Americans call soccer. Have you ever? I used to play goalie, and have you ever seen a ball that the goalie fell down and everybody's kind of in a pile and the ball's rolling around and here's the goal line. Here's the goal line right here. And the question is, did the ball get across the line or not? It was very close to the line and it stopped. And the question is, Did it cross the line? Have you ever seen one like that? Well, I have, and my point is, in anything that's close, you must give yourself a victory. It's very important that you give yourself a victory. Now, I don't know how badly you did when I got that email. I want to go back to that incident, and I want you to tell me more about um, that incident.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Tell me about it. I think you said, I'm looking at your email of December 18th, and you said, had a relapse yesterday where the repetition of the first letter and words was very pronounced in a business meeting, and that made the rest of my day quite stressful. We'll keep doing auto suggestions and self-hypnosis, um, trying not to feel overly bad about it. You shouldn't. You can't afford to. And what you need to do is look at a situation like that and say, what could I have done to make that better? Once you figure that out, forget that whole thing. Wipe the slate clean. It's like a bad dream. Forget it and dwell on all the good that you're doing with your speech. Now, what can you tell me about that meeting? Tell me the worst of it and tell me what you could do better.
I can tell you everything about the meeting. Yeah, so it was me telling the guy, the new guy, what's our company does, and me telling him about what the two senior guys do and who they are. The issue occurred when I occurred over a few words that were really bad. The two words I repeated, China. I just couldn't say China, because I have to say China a lot.
You would China?
Yeah, and I just couldn't. I was just repeating the first syllable.
Now, when I'm going to fault your pronunciation, buddy, is sloppy. And if you want to be a good speaker, you need to pronounce, you need to have more respect for pronunciation. You need to put more muscle into giving words their rich beauty. Not thinking which words to say. Your mind will do that for you. But once you're saying the words, put something into it. Make sure they're understood. Don't make people ask you, what did you say? Don't do that. So China,
Yes.
You have trouble with China? China. Now, I can put words in front of it and, of course, do it too. If I get right up, they say, what is the country you're talking about? And there's several I could say. And I'm going to have trouble with, I won't say it. I'm going to say something else. Well, it's China. Say that. Say it.
Well, it's China. Well, it's China.
And over modulate the most important words. Well, it's China. Go ahead.
Well, it's China.
The more you modulate, high, low, high, break into syllables, the less you will stutter and the better you will be understood. You're trying to sell your ideas here. It's not a question of how many words you can say in how little time. The question is, can you make points that people will remember, that are worth remembering, that they'll understand?
Yes.
And you throw away words. You just shovel them. It's not pretty.
Right.
And you're quite capable. All you got to do is change your attitude about the way you're going to present yourself. And you'll do it. I want you to think about that king stuff. Adopt it. Be a king now.
Yes. I agree with you, Lee. I have, a lot of times I give in to my fear, right? Meaning despite the rational practice of, speech modulation, everything we talked about, right? Every time I get hit by a big wave of fear, for example, in the meeting the other day, right? I just let myself go. I just right, meaning many times I can control myself. Why not? Right. So the speech is not an issue, but a few times when the situation is really pressurizing, I then just let go.
What do you mean by let go?
Yeah, I mean, I just stop doing all the right things, First of
Well,
which
you
is to
don't have to do
stop.
that. When? You're a disciplined person. I can't buy that. I mean, this is a question of you just pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and deciding what you're going to allow yourself. It's like smoking or taking illicit drugs or drinking too much alcohol. You're not going to do it.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
You're either going to run your life or your life's going to run you.
Yes. Yes.
So you
So,
got to get tough with yourself.
yeah. But by the way, remember last week we practiced my business speech, right? Artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
enterprise application.
Yes.
That worked. The
Great.
day after that, I went to talk to someone, now, albeit in a relatively casual setting, but it's a potential business partner. You meet someone
Good.
at a party, you still have to impress them. And I thought I did because we had just practiced those words.
That's great.
And as I was going through the spiel, right, with the guy, I was just thinking of us. I was just picturing, I planted your face onto his head. And it was basically your head on his neck. It was nice. Nice. Anyway, that felt great, right? So I think, yes. And that went great. That went swimmingly, right? He was impressed. I said, yes, Lee, I mean, whatever your name is, random person, who I just imagined my head as my coach. So maybe let me finish telling you about what happened in that wonderful meeting
Go ahead.
so there was that, which is, I said, okay, we do investing in China, but when I said China, I just repeated the first syllable a few times in a relatively noticeable way, because I noticed people's faces started to grimace. They're just like, ooh, guy's having trouble, right? So that's what got me
Can
really
you, the
nervous. And
next time that you think of, that you start to repeat, can you not think modulate and break into syllables? China, China, whatever it is. Korea, Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, California, California. Look, you say it sounds a little affected, but on the other hand,
better
it's
than the freaking alternative. I
it
mean,
sure is. It sure is. The point is China. Will the opportunity in China, blah, 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 blah. The opportunity in China is blah, 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 blah. No one will ever criticize you for that, mentally or otherwise. They won't. It's a style of speaking.
yeah.
And yours,
I mean,
yours may be a little affected or over the top. While you're in the curing phase, eventually it won't be. And you'll simply have a habit of emphasizing things in that way, and it'll make you much more effective anyway. So, okay, so you got to China and you said it and you messed it up. Any other words?
yes. And then I tried to say, So and so are two of our senior partners.
What partner?
Senior,
Senior.
sorry, senior. I need to work on that. Hey, next Skype we have, I will be so enunciating that you will find me annoying. You'll be like, stop smacking your teeth against your tongue when you speak. You're spitting on the screen. You're showering my
You know, when
camera
on
with
your
your saliva.
list across the top that says slow down, pauses, extreme pronunciation, I think I would add smile because you have a great smile, and when you smile, your face lights up, and I think it'll relax you.
I'll tell you this much. It makes me feel better. You know how people say, like, if you smile, you somehow manage to tell your body that you're happy,
Exactly, exactly. You got some
right?
good news. Things are good.
I'm gonna be a smiling enunciator.
So, what do you think about writing these words on the top of your notepad? You're going to make notes when you go in there. At least you're ready to make notes, aren't you? In case something important is said, you're not going to rely on your memory if you don't have to. So you carry a pad in there of some kind,
I agree.
and you have those words written across the top, printed in block letters. Slow down, pauses, extreme pronunciation, smile. You know, those are and that's what you're focused on the entire meeting.
You
You,
know, I mean, obviously, I think you're right. I really think you're right because at least if I smile, I have to think about something, right?
that's right.
And I'm thinking about smiling, not any of the stuttering nonsense,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And if I'm trying to enunciate so hard, I also can't be thinking about stuttering.
Exactly.
Like right now, like when I really try to overwhelm you with my extreme degree of enunciation, I stop thinking. Like me talking right now is better than me talking 15 minutes ago,
It is.
right?
You
Because
started
I was
out
just
kind
like
of
all
shaky
over the
today.
place.
Now you're talking
Yeah,
like you normally talk to me. Now in your cruise gear now. You're cruising. You started out kind of rough. You were thinking about all this nonsense. But that's part of the thing about crutches is it takes the focus off stuttering and puts it on the crutch. And that is one of the reasons why it works. Just changing what you look at. Instead of looking at the problem, you're looking at the solution.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know your topic, you know your subject, and you know plenty of words. Your mind has plenty of tools up there. Doesn't need your help in picking words. You're focusing on the drama side of it, how you sell it, not the words. The words are there. China and any other word. And you love them all. You're going to focus on how you're going to say them. You're going to say them with conviction and calm, clarity, measured speech, easy, measured speech. That's what you're going to do all the time. You're going to start pronouncing your words instead of garbling them, like most
Yeah.
people your age do.
But hey, I'm not most people in my age.
No, you're not. So there's no
Yeah.
reason to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay.
that's it. So you're on your own, and
So
I don't know when our scheduled time is. I'm gone for a couple
Saturday,
of weeks.
we're supposed to talk on Saturday,
Oh, I won't
1
be.
p.m.
This Saturday, what's the date this Saturday?
It's the day before you head off.
Okay,
Twenty
then
second.
I'll see you then. Then I'll see you then.
Yes, and by then I hope to have. I hope we have. I hope I have good news for you.
Okay, listen. Write these words down on a pad, on something, and carry them around with you.
Yeah.
Let's try and do this 24/7. You don't have to talk like a street guy. You
Yeah.
can say, well, people are going to think I'm affected or I'm pedantic or something, pedagogic or whatever. But you know something? They won't. They're simply going to think you speak better than they do. And maybe they
Yes.
may or may not like it, but that's going to be a fact.
Right.
You're going to do this. You're going to take control of the steering wheel all the time. And you cannot stutter, block, you cannot repeat unless you consent to do it. And you're not going to do it. I'll see you Saturday.
Thank you. You are always super helpful. I already feel better.
All right, go knock 'em dead, buddy. Knock 'em dead. Get a hit for
Knock
me.
them dead. Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, buddy. That's when he's getting there. I hope you are.